So, welcome
Morning.
to Arts Plus Change, hosted by the University of Rochester's Institute for the Performing Arts, in partnership with the Office of Engagement and Enrichment, the Paul J. Burgett Center, Create a Space Now, the Institute for Music Leadership at the Eastman School, and the ESL Rochester Fringe Festival. My name is Missy Full-Smith. My pronouns are she, her, and I am your conference host for this session with Esther Rogers-Baker and Joanna Rodriguez. I am a white woman in my 50s with light brown hair. It's a little wet this morning. I have white hair in the front. I'm wearing a kind of a army green shirt, and I'm sitting here in my living room with a window and some plants behind me. We would like to begin by acknowledging with respect the Seneca Nation, known as the Great Hill People and keepers of the western door of the Haudenosaunee. We take this opportunity to thank the original caretakers on whose ancestral lands the University of Rochester, where we are hosting, currently resides in Rochester, New York. As we come together, we also acknowledge the need for commitment to constant action and attention surrounding the systemic issues that continue to impact all of us. Just letting in another person. 1 second. There we go. Captions and live transcriptions are enabled. To view either of these, please select the boxes at the bottom of your screen. Sorry, I'm doing both the hosting and the attendance, so I have to go back and forth a little bit. We are recording today's session, so please note that your spoken, written comments and image may be included in the recording. You're welcome to rename your Zoom profile with your first name only, and you're also always welcome to take care of yourself, turn off your video screen, whatever you need to do. Any breakout rooms would not be recorded. Because we do have back-to-back sessions, the presentation will end promptly at the end time. And if you would like to connect with the presenters or other participants after the session, you can email ur.ipa@rochester.edu. The presenters may also be sharing some contact info. I'll put all this in the chat at the end. And thank you so much for joining us. And I'm now honored to welcome Esther Rogers-Baker and Joanna Rodriguez, who are presenting Invitation to Protest in Performance. And I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Missy. My name is Joanna. I am a white woman with long brown hair and wearing glasses and a flowered shirt and an orange sweater. And we have a plain gray wall behind us because we're recording this from a dance studio where no one will interrupt us. I'm a dancer and a dance teacher, choreographer, and a mother of four.
Hi, I'm Esther. I am sitting with my cello. I'm a cellist and I'm kind of hugging my cello here. I have a black sweater on. I'm a white woman with kind of wavy, little frizzy hair this morning, and I'm somewhere between college and retirement.
I like that.
And we're really excited to have all of you. Thanks for taking your Sunday morning to join with us. So we hope that you'll be inspired by something today or be challenged in a new way. We are really excited to hear what you have to say.
Mm-hmm. So obviously this session is called Invitation to Protest in Performance, but we're actually not going to start there. We're going to start where Esther and I started with our work together over the last year and a half or so, and that is with the idea of goodness. Mm-hmm. This is going to be an interactive session with a lot of opportunities for you guys to respond. So here is your first invitation. We would like you to consider the question, what is goodness to you? It can be something simple and tangible like the taste of your morning coffee, or it can be something deep and philosophical. Whatever comes to mind first is just fine. And if you're comfortable, we'd love for you to write your answers to that question in the chat. I'll give you a moment to think about that. We'll make sure we can see our chat. And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to share a little bit more about Esther and I and our work together, and that will bring us toward the theme of protest in performance. So Esther and I met about 2 years ago, thanks to the wonders of social media, and we began to get to know each other as artists and friends. Esther shared with me her passion for working collaboratively across disciplines, and I was very intrigued and was hoping for an opportunity to work with her. Simultaneous to this, I was putting together my first full evening of work as a dancer and choreographer called Goodness Shall Follow, which mostly explored themes of difficulty and darkness rooted much in my experience as a mother, and then how to hold on to hope when things are really hard. So I needed something more to complete the evening. So I asked Esther if she would like to create something together. And she was like, yes, I will do that with you. So we didn't know what we were going to create, but we started. And we just had two goals in creating this work together. The first was to create in a truly collaborative way without either one of us steering the ship and without either of our art forms, dance or music, taking the lead, but really holding them as equal to each other. And we didn't realize that we'd be exploring the theme of protest later on, but that goal in itself was actually an act of protest against art making in which certain artists are given more value than others, or where artists of one discipline overlook the needs and desires of artists of a different discipline. Mm-hmm. So more on protests to come, but there were some little inklings of it from the beginning. And our second goal was just to explore what is goodness. We were both, as all of us are, feeling the heaviness of our current moment, and we felt drawn to focusing on good to bring just a little bit of joy into the lives of our audience. So Esther had the idea to ask family members, friends, strangers on the internet the question, what is goodness to you? And to take those answers and create a piece based on them. So that was what we did. We had a goal of collecting 100 responses. I think we ended up with more than that, plenty of material to work with. And what resulted was this delightful collaboration entitled The Goodness of Stepping Outside. We began with scraps of paper with people's answers on them, some of which we'd received in advance and some we got the evening of the show. And we explored those themes while dancing and playing and singing, speaking, listening, as well as making, eating, and sharing popcorn on the stage, which was one of my favorite parts. So that's a little bit about where we started and some of the work that we've done together. We've done versions of that piece in various places at various times, and it's continued to develop. So now we invite you to share with us. Let's see, we've got, oh yeah, we do have more. I needed to scroll up. So thank you for sharing your ideas of what goodness is to you in the chat. What we'd like to do now is to invite all of you to move your bodies in response to those things. So what will happen is Esther's going to read them out loud. And if you're able, you can move your body in any way that feels like a fitting response or a fitting action to go with those ideas. You're welcome to copy my movement. I'm just going to stand up and step back a little bit if you're not sure what to do, and you're welcome to create your own movement as well. We would love for you to turn on your camera so that we can see each other's movement if that feels safe to you. And there's also no pressure to move your body if that's not something that you're able to do or want to do right now. So as always throughout this session, do what feels best to you. But if anyone wants to share the visual with us, we would love to be able to participate in this together.
So when we first started doing this, some of the answers felt immediately inspiring for movement and some were challenging, and I would anticipate we might all feel that together, and that's fine. So if you're feeling really inspired, go for it, and if you're not, maybe you just relax and take in what Joanna's sharing with you. Okay, so I'm gonna get my cello out of the way. Okay, our first response is attentive presence. when I can be completely present with who I'm with. Art, creativity, expression, and the ability to do so. Family, community, love. Constructive, real conversation. Being supported by others when you need it. Remembering to play. If you're just joining us, we're writing in the chat things that answer the question, what is goodness? I'll add one to the chat. Goodness is snowflakes falling with each of their unique designs. Beautiful. Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for entering into that with us. Whether we could see you or not, we hope that you were able to participate in that in some way. So now we're going to shift to kind of the next part of the story and how we got to exploring the theme of protest. So Esther's going to talk about how did our work together evolve to include an element of protest after all this focus on goodness?
Yeah, so we were creating a lot of integrated work. You're not seeing me moving right now, but I was also doing a little bit of movement. Joanna was singing and really exploring crossing those boundaries. And then we added a section where Joanna's husband Stephen had composed some music, and we were in the studio rehearsing, and it just felt like it needed something else. It needed some more something. And an idea that came out of that was, what if we kind of halted that movement? We added some stops. And so some words that came out were no, stop, wait, halt. Is there anything else? Those are the big
block.
Ones. Block.
Was
Yeah, I like
yeah.
that one. Yeah. And the more we worked with that creative idea, the more that started to feel really personal, that we all had things we really wanted to say those things to, and that thing that was just sort of a playful idea in the studio became something really personal to each of us, and that felt right. It felt like in that moment we really needed to say those things as a response to what we were going through or what was happening in the world. And the more that we worked with, okay, well, how do we do this creatively? How do we make the music and the dance stop? The more we were committed to using a strong voice and being really active and really convicted about those words. And each of those kind of has a similar energy, but a little bit different definition. Wait, stop, no, block. Yeah, and we started exploring that even more. And one day in a rehearsal, the idea came out, oh, we've been saying all these yeses. How do we say yes to good things in our life? How do we recognize goodness, be grateful and appreciative? But that also is mirrored by how do we say no? How do we stand up for what we believe? Or how do we realize when things in our life are not the kinds of things that we want or need? How do we respond to people? And that need for that just really kind of blossomed as we were playing with these concepts.
So we're going to show you now an excerpt from that performance. So I'm just going to share my screen with you so you can get an idea of what that work was that we did together. So we hope you enjoy this excerpt. The piece was called Heal, Strike, Swipe, Feel, and it's performed by myself and Esther, and my husband Stephen Rodriguez is also playing percussion, and he composed the music. Can these hands hold the line? These hands catch the rainstorm and stop its flow? Can these hands stop anything?
4, 5, 6.
There we go. Get back to that. Okay. There we go. Yeah, so we would love to, first, thanks for watching that with us. It's always a vulnerable thing to put your work out there, so thank you for receiving that imperfect work of art. So since this session is called Invitation to Protest in Performance, we are actually going to give you an opportunity right here in the session to protest in performance in a low pressure, low stakes sort of situation. So in the excerpt that we showed you, we didn't name specific things that we were protesting, but we did have specific things in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'd like you to just think about that for yourself. What is something, could be something in your very personal life. It might be something you don't want to share with us, and that's fine. It could be something in a broader context of what's happening in the world or anything. Maybe just if you're willing to share, put in the chat what is something in your personal or private life or your larger life, maybe one of each, that you would like to protest. And for me, the word protest means something that I want to put a boundary to. I want to say no to. I want to communicate something that's not, I'm okay with all this and everything is wonderful, but something that is strong, like, wait a minute, we need to talk about this, or I'm not okay with this. So if you feel comfortable sharing that, just take some time. You might just think of that in your mind for yourself. You might do some private journaling here. If anybody would like to share verbally, you're welcome to do that as well. Joanna, is there anything that you're thinking about right now that you would like to share?
I'm going to give a really silly example. Maybe that'll help break the ice a little bit. I recently needed to fill out some registration paperwork for school for my children, and I was so frustrated about how difficult the process was. And I was like, this is 2026. Why can this not be like online fill out? No, I have to print the thing. I have to fill out the 20 pages. Then I have to scan the thing and find all these documents. And I was like, we could do something about this. This is not the way that it should be. So that's a silly example. And there are, of course, many more serious things going on in the world right now. Yeah, everything that's going on with ICE and all the conflicts that are happening in the world, they just keep seeming to come more and more and more and more. And it's easy to feel helpless, right? Like what could I possibly do? So yeah, in this moment, we're going to start. This isn't the only thing that we can do, but we're going to start with saying no to those things.
Something that I'm thinking about in my personal life is members of my family that I need to say no to, that I need to say this isn't working for me. And that's taking a lot of challenge and a lot of need to get support from others.
I'm sorry. It's okay. Just kicked the cello. Don't do that. I'm just going to protest.
Dancers should never kick the instruments that the people are playing with. This is rule number 1.
I'm so sorry.
All right, so the next thing that we're going to do here is I'm going to play whatever comes up for me and the cello from your responses. So I'm going to read your responses in my head, not out loud, and then play. And Joanna's going to give some other things that you can do along with me.
Mm-hmm. So Esther's going to be playing her representation of these things. You can kind of think of what you're hearing as those things that you want to protest. And then at different points, I'm going to say no, or stop, or halt. At which point I invite you, and we'll work on this for a moment now, to respond with your body or with your voice. And this, of course, depends on the space that you're in and if you feel safe to vocalize or safe to move your body. So we're going to respond with some kind of big no action. So I encourage you to get big if you can. I'm going to stand up and step back a little bit. And I'm just going to play with some gestures that feel like no to me. I just changed our view. Hang on a second. There we go. So I don't know. No, right? Like you're blocking something. Stop. Maybe just a firm, like, here I am. I'm standing here. I'm saying no more. So take a moment. Again, we'd love to see some of you. If you feel comfortable sharing your video, you don't need to be a dancer to do this. You just need to have a body. And again, so maybe moving doesn't feel like a good option, but maybe vocalizing does. So when I say no, you can say no in a nice, strong voice. If neither of those options, again, feels good to you, you can write something. You can also just have a strong feeling and a strong thought internally that can still, our thoughts and feelings matter and can make a difference. So that's an equally valid option for how to respond. If you're playing with gestures, feel free to play until you find one that feels right. You can do the same one every time. You can do a different one every time. You can copy my gesture. Lots of different options here. So are there any questions about that? Again, we're calling this protest in performance, and this doesn't need to be a big, scary thing. It's really just how can we put these things into our bodies and express them? And Esther and I did that on a stage, and you might do that by going to a protest or saying no in so many other ways in your life. But we hope that this just opens the door opens your mind to possibilities of how you can stand up and say no to things. Yeah. Okay, I don't see any questions. So I think we're gonna, yeah, you can read through it.
Yep. And I'll let you go behind me so I don't stab you.
Sure thing. I don't want to get stabbed.
Cellist should never stab.
It's true.
Your dancer.
This has been another interesting element of our working together. Like, I was often moving in close proximity to Esther. She was moving as she was playing. So, like, figuring out what those safe boundaries are for the cello, how I can or cannot touch the cello to respect it, all those things. Yes.
A lot to work on there. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to play some sounds that I feel from these things that maybe we're each protesting in our own space. And Joanna will call out and stop me from playing, and we'll do several bits of this.
Wait. Stop. Look! Wait! Thank you, Esther.
Yeah. Does anyone want to jump in and share how that felt to them or put in the chat their response? We can't see you and it's hard to know if you're there. So if you want to respond by showing your face or saying something or putting in the chat, that would be great. I'll start by saying so many of those responses felt really violent to me. And I don't know exactly what you can hear through the computer, but the kinds of aggressive sounds that felt really natural. And then someone had specifically mentioned wanting to feel safe. And so that last one for me was trying to feel like that sort of like uncomfortableness or fear or a little bit of anxiety, like can't quite settle somewhere. And I felt that kind of touched on some things I've been feeling, like a lot of anxiety, maybe not for the same reasons, or maybe so, but I found that moving, just trying to somehow express your thoughts there.
Yeah.
I don't mind starting. First of all, I felt like I could hear pretty well on my end, so hopefully that's the case for everyone. And yeah, it's very interesting what you just said about the last one, because for me there felt like an imbalance, sort of like I felt like the music was making me want to be sort of off, and then yeah, and it also was, you went for a length of time before Joanna said stop, and so like it fed that sort of anxiety of like, hey, I want to be back in balance, right? And I just wanted to say that, you know, as simple in some ways as this is, it's rather profound because we don't practice saying no. We don't. We are encouraged to always be like, yeah, yes, of course, I can help. I can do this. So this is really amazing.
We have one response in the chat that says, I could really feel the sinister energy from the cello. It was as it was bringing these heavy topics to light. Yeah, I felt that way playing. Like I was just aware that my natural response was very heavy. Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, just from a cello perspective, I can only sustain heavy playing so long. So it becomes fatiguing. And I think that's true for all of us. Whatever it is that's heavy in our life becomes harder and harder the longer that goes on.
Hmm.
That fatigue of carrying something heavy, whether that's personal or it's out in the world, um, it's hard. It's hard to continually carry a heavy burden. And there's a lot of violence happening in our world right now. And regardless of our individual views of that, we're all feeling a lot of controversy and difficulty and heaviness and conflict. Yeah, it's hard.
Mhm. I'll say a little bit on my and I also have a question too, but I'll say my experience first. I was it was interesting to like bring up all these different like things that like people are protesting, and then to have that like heavy music and move to it. I feel like it gave such like it gave me my body permission to like feel a lot of these like dark and like negative like feelings without necessarily like having to be like on the picket fence being like, you know, like F ice or like anything, like putting my body in more like pathway of like physical danger. And but I have a question because I was like really interested because while I was doing the movement and the activity, I was like feeling a lot of these feelings, and then Joanna would say stop. And so I'm curious because like some points it felt like I'm curious. Some points it felt like the protest was on like the people and being like we need to stop these people from trying to protest, but then it could also be viewed as like this is something that we need to stop. So I'm curious as to like where you're like wait and stop, like what the viewpoint is of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for starters, those came out of feelings, right? In terms of the performance that we created and decided to share with the public, like a sort of organic or even unarticulated need to say no, to actually stand up and say, wait, to stand up and say, hang on, like, I have to stop here. And I think for each of us, that came out of a different place. For some of us, that was specifically about stopping the government, stopping ICE, stopping mistreatment of people around us. For one of us, it was maybe more personal, stopping things that are going on in my life that are not good, more about relationships and not a global thing. And I don't know that we really had an all out conversation about exactly what that was for each of us,
Hmm.
but it was pretty clear that as we dug into that, we each were feeling the need to say that. So a little bit different for the three of us. I don't know
Hmm.
if you want to add to that.
Yeah. I'm wondering, Riley, if your question is more about who's saying the no and who's like what action, like in this particular practice.
Mm.
And this was something I was trying to discuss this with Esther when we were planning, and I was also having trouble putting words to it. Um, I think it was a little different actually when we did it just now than I thought it would be. I had not actually intended on moving while Esther was playing. And then it felt right to start moving, so I moved. Um, I think if that had been more stillness, then the action on our part, the only action on our part was we go from stillness to no. That is our action. So that puts us in that active role of being the ones who are saying no. And I see how, since we were moving along with the music, it could kind of feel, especially since I was initiating it, like someone from the outside was coming in and telling you to stop, um, which is really interesting. It's interesting that that just kind of happened. I don't think there's a right or a wrong. Maybe if you were to do something like this again, maybe part of the therapeutic process for you would be starting again after feeling that no. Um, I don't know. I think there's different ways to interpret it. But either way, I know, like you, it felt really powerful to just be able to let, like you said, permission to feel those things in your body. And like Missy said, we don't practice how to say no. So I think, yeah, as simple as it was, and it felt very simple in putting this together, but we also felt like, yeah, this is something that's really important to offer and to practice with each other. So I don't know if that answered your question at all, Riley.
Yeah, I was just curious because different songs brought up different like feelings, and sometimes I was like, oh yeah, like stop, like I don't want to feel this anymore. Other times it was like, oh, I was really into this, like why did we stop? So I was just curious if you guys had an intentional like viewpoint, but I don't even mind the ambiguity because I feel like it kind of speaks to the dynamics of the different types of feelings and different things that happen when people protest and when things are being put on people that they do want to protest.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing and for asking those questions, Riley. Yeah. John.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of bring up the compare and contrast, and like this was like four or five different things, but like there's protest songs that build up the protesters, like bring joy or determination, like we shall overcome, right? This is a solidarity building thing. But then there's other protest songs like Fortunate Son, uh, that is like it's not an angry song, but it's an angry message. It's a uh, these rich kids, these senators' sons, can get out of war while the rest of us are sending our kids to die.
Mm-hmm.
And that scratches a very angry sort of a feeling.
Yeah.
Um, so it's interesting, right, because there weren't any lyrics here, to take away the words and then to get the feeling and the movement still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that feels really important to me personally in performance is that I'm not making assumptions about anyone who's coming to see me perform, whether that's they hate classical music, they hate the cello, they think the cellist moving is strange, their politics, their religion, their past. And my personal journey has been that um, when people made assumptions about me, they shut the door on teaching me something. And when people just gently shared their authentic response to something or their authentic beliefs, it challenged me to challenge mine. Um, and so it feels important to me. Like, I like that we didn't name in our performance that we did what exactly we were protesting because it allowed people to have their own, like, should I be saying no to something? And what is that? Or, wow, I felt something there that I didn't know was inside of me. I don't know, I'm kind of going on a tangent.
Yeah. It's a good tangent.
Anyone
Yeah.
else want to share something?
I did want to say, John, I like your examples of protest songs. That that kind of ties into our like the focusing on goodness versus the focus, like the yes versus the no, and that those are both really important pieces of taking action and standing up. So yeah, and now I want to like do a deep dive on protest songs. So thanks.
Mhm.
Do a deep dive on protest dance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other thoughts from anyone?
I was just going to add, it's this Zoom format and stuff like that, and people have microphones off, but I also think we would have experienced a different, I don't know, agency, I guess, if we were also able to say no when we wanted to say no, like if various people were saying no when they wanted to say no, right? Which is more your structure, really. So I think that might have resonated differently, like for Riley or others, Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. And if we were all together in the same space, we would love to do that. Yeah, the technology makes it complicated. But that was part of why I, gave everyone the option to, even though I was making the choices about when we were saying no, I hope that some of you were vocalizing and were responding so that that could also, you can have some agency in that. But yeah, it definitely has its limitations.
You have a chat from Kaylin as well.
One thing I also like how this situation put a lot of power on the act of saying no. Oftentimes you can be labeled negatively for that, but not here. Yeah, I
Mm,
agree. And I think we all have our work to do to learn how to say that in a way that is powerful and moves things forward, and how to do that in a way that's productive. Yeah, like Missy said earlier, goodness is productive or constructive, I think is the word you use, conversations. How do we
mm,
say no in a way that moves us or the person we're saying no to forward,
yeah,
as opposed to
yeah.
building only more conflict or only more hate?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I also think that it's interesting, and sorry if people have their hands raised. I can't see because I joined on my phone. But anyway, but I also think it's interesting the goodness, the piece, the part that you put on goodness before the like more kind of negative things, because it was interesting because I was thinking about what goodness means to me and what other people said goodness means to them. And I feel like sometimes in societies and like oppressive systems, like certain people's joy is an act of protest, and like being able to like openly be joyful and like openly be, excuse me, openly like be happy, like thinking of that as a form of protest. I think that was pretty interesting as well.
Yeah. Um,
Mm.
my husband and I were trying to catch up on some of the Olympics last night, and we were watching. I think your name is Alyssa Liu, who won the gold for figure skating. Yeah, Missy's clapping. Um, and what's so striking is the joy that she competes with and her emphasis on not being competitive with herself and all that pressure, but just going out and having a great time regardless of what that result is. And my husband and I both commented afterwards how inspired we were by the joy that she, like, it made us want to figure out how to be more like her. And yeah, it was very powerful. Yeah.
Mhm.
So one thought I'm having, Joanna, right now is what if we did one more, and I alternate between what in my head might be goodness and what
Mm,
might be things we might protest based on the comments, and invite you to respond to that in your own space with your own stops, your
mhm.
own starts,
Yeah.
and just have another chance to kind of respond physically. Does that feel
Hmm.
like a good thing to do next?
Yeah.
We
I love that.
wrap us up with
Yeah.
our final challenge for you is to reflect on in your personal life today. Do you need to protest through goodness or protest through communicating no? Through joy, celebrating life, or boundaries, better communication, standing up? And maybe there's one really specific action that you might think of or a specific thing, um, and maybe this can be a sort of physical response, and then we'll wrap up with any final comments. Does that feel
Yeah.
right to you?
Yeah. I'm wondering what it would be best for me to do because I don't want to dictate for others.
Right.
So maybe I won't, maybe I'll move, but I won't vocalize because I don't want to say when it's time for other people to stop. So watch me or don't. I'm going to move and stop as I
Great.
please.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just going to shift
Yay.
this a little so you get a little more of the gel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay.
So I will alternate between some of those goodness, what's inspired in me musically, and some of those not so great things that, and let you do that with that, what that means to you personally without us defining it.
Yep. More?
No, thanks. Okay, here we go. Thank you for sharing with us today. Any final thoughts or comments, and we'll wrap it up.
One thing I noticed during that last improvisation was the difference between being closed, right, and like being in these postures of trying to keep myself safe, and being open, looking around me. The piece we created called "The Goodness of Stepping Outside," like so many of people's things that they named as good were the natural world around us, and being able to, when you feel safe enough to stop and look and take in beauty, that's really powerful. So that was just interesting experience. But then even in those like yucky, I'm saying no to these, or I'm trying to keep myself safe, then to open up and say no, like I'm not just going to cower here in fear. I'm going to stand up with my shoulders back and say no to this. Yeah, those were some powerful experiences that I had. I would love to hear if anyone else has anything they'd like to share about that experience together. John?
Yeah. So I was moving a bit and then um, I got winded. But uh, I hope so. So protest is more than just like political protests or going out on the street, but for the likelihood, seems inevitable, but likelihood that we have a lot of public protests in the next months and years.
Mhm.
I hope that we are able to take the movement and music aspects of those and incorporate those into the public part, both angry and building up, right?
Yeah.
So it takes everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, John. Absolutely. Hmm.
Hi. My experience for this one was so interesting because I feel like I was taking the like power of like no and stop and wait as a form of like my oh like this is my personal experience. I felt like it was more like my thing. Like I can say like no and I can hold my movement as like the music continues to go on around me and like have it not affect my movement or be swept away in it. And personally it felt so metaphorical for just like the current news, how like I can choose to be like this stuff is really horrible as it's going on. I'm going to stay with whatever joy I'm feeling or with whatever situation that I feel is like safe to be in or like um, feels good to express, like given these current situations. And it felt very like my it felt like my movement life separate from the music, and I can choose like when do I want to be with the music, when do I want to be with myself, when do I want to hold the feelings that I have versus hold the feelings that the cello is giving me. And I was such a personally, it was such a drastic change from the first time we did it. And I was just really interesting to me how like one simple change can like kind of bring such profound differences just from my experience personally.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Riley. Kaylee's raising her hand. Are you with us, Kaylee?
We can't hear you, Kaylee.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yay.
I had my baby monitor on and it was canceling me out.
Oh no!
Oh, well, I just wanted to say thank you both for sharing like these ideas and practice. I think that like it's so powerful to just share spaces where people are thinking of how we put this into our bodies in the other ways, than being the one out there with holding the sign, putting our bodies on the line in a very, very vulnerable way. And I guess it just made me think that as people develop these practices and as I was like investigating what the prompts were, that, you know, when we kind of fill our own buckets in this way or find ways to have outlets, that then I can go forward into the world and hopefully affect better change, even in small, subtle ways. Like, how do I interact with the students I teach? And if I'm taking on these practices of protest where I have space to say no, then do I go put something better out in the world, which is like a catalyst or a domino effect? Maybe it does reach the person who then is actually out at the actual protest, because I often in my own work have conflict or questions around, is this important enough? Am I doing enough? When should I, go out to that physical protest? So lots of things in my head, but I just wanted to share that this was really exciting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kaylee.
Can I respond to that? The other day, Heather Layton did a session as part of the conference, and she did allow us to record and share, so will be shared in the next few weeks. But it is such a powerful example. Her project, it was such a powerful example of doing something small and having it become really huge in terms of protest and change making and stuff. So anyway, I encourage you to look up her thing, but I think nothing is too small, A. But the thing I wanted to share, and this is a little bit bizarre maybe, but this is where my head is. So I happen to be in a space where I have a window behind me and also in front of me. And so while we were moving, I was just noticing the snow is really falling pretty actively and just thinking about, and so like I was listening and taking that in and just seeing like how it's kind of relentless what's going on. Like it's like the snow is just relentlessly falling. And I was like, it looks so soft, but actually it can barely keep up with the speed that it's falling. But then it lands on the ground and it stops. And eventually that snow is going to melt and be gone. And then like the grass is going to grow and so I just felt like, okay, like that landing on the ground is the stop, and like things are going to change. Like they just have to, right? It's like the nature of the world, right? So I just want to share that, even though that's weird.
I love it. That's a very fitting metaphor, and I love that you were able to experience it in your spaces we were exploring together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, maybe we wrap up there and just invite you to take whatever you found meaningful this morning into your life today. And maybe that challenges you to figure out what that next step is for you, what that next conversation is that you need to have or whatever. So have an awesome Sunday.
Yes.
And check out the rest of the programming that's happening today.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Joanna and Esther. It's a beautiful session. Thank you.